This is Gemara in Kesubos, Daf Samoch Tas. So the learning of this month, the month of El, has been generously sponsored as an incredible Zchos Neshama, Festival Reyzel, Basra, מאיר, Mir Tashem. The learning of the entire Chabura should bring us to Reyzel, Basra, מאיר higher, and replacing Gan Eden Shalmayla, closer to the Kisei HaKavod, the power of Torah, elevating her Neshama day by day. We pick it up in the very top of Samoch Tas and Aleph. And yesterday we discussed the fact that even that which the brothers sold, even that which is mishubid, the brothers sold, the halacha Rebbe said was that the sister is able to collect her dowry, her nedunya, even from those properties. And today we begin on the top line in which the Gemara teaches us that Toli Rav Lerevi Beinei Chiti. The Rav suspended, literally, he asked the following question between the lines of the letter. What exactly that means, Rashi explains that he sent him a letter, and between the lines he added in this question of the letter. Ha'achin sheshibdu ma'u. Brothers who have properties that they sold, properties that they inherited from their father, that now are mishobid. What is the halacha? Is the sister able to collect from those properties as well? And again, we're really only discussing the properties referring to the nedunya, referring to the dowry, and not referring to the mizaynais. So, what is the halacha? Haso Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chia Kamei, Rabbi Chia was sitting in front of Rabbi. Amar Lei, he says to Rabbi, Machroi oy mishkanai. What do you mean that the brothers made the properties mishobin? Do you mean that they sold them, or do you mean that they merely gave them as a mashkin? What is the case that you are referring to? Are you referring to a case in which the brothers sold the properties? The properties are no longer here. They sold them. They're in the hands of the purchaser. Or are you referring to a case where they gave them as a mashkin? So Amar Lei, in the third line, Rabbi responds, "My nafkamina." Bein machru, bein shemishchu, whether they sold them, whether they gave them as a mashkin, moitziin leparnasa. We use them to collect for parnasa, for the dowry, ve'ein moitziin lemizaynis, but you do not collect them from the mizaynis. So again, they try to Rav asked this question to Rebbe. So he asked to Rebbe, do you mean Machroya Mishkanoi? And Rebbe said, what's the difference? So the Gemara responds to Rav, and Rav himself, when he asked this question, says the Gemara, I don't understand. Rav, why don't you say what you mean and mean what you say? If your question was Machra, you should have written that. If your question was Mashkana, you should have written that. What's the reason for you to write this in this funny way, in which it's unclear what your question is? So explains the Gemara, he wasn't explicit. Because Rav Tervayu kami ba'ilei. He's asking both. Visavar, and Rav thought, if I would have written that my question is with regard to brothers who sold properties, then it would have been good to me if he sent back the year, yes, allowed to collect, and then I would have known Kol Shkei Mishkanai. Meaning that side of the coin would have been okay. But if he would have sent to me that we do not collect from the properties that were sold, I still would have had a question. I would have thought that the question is only with regard to Machrai. That's when he says that you do not collect. But when it comes to Mishkanai, maybe that would be different. So explains the Gemara, that was the reason why. And the Gemara continues that Mishkanai. And if he wrote to him that the case is Mishkanai, again, we would have had the same issue. So if he would have responded, then I would have known Kol Shkein Mach. So Rav's problem was, in each way that he would have written it, he would not have been able to get the answer to both of his questions that he really was asking. And therefore Rav thought, therefore Rav thought, you know what I'm going to write? I'm going to write that the case is Mishobid, and that's the reason why that Rav was not specific. Why was he not specific? The reason being because he was nervous he would not get his answer. And that's why he left it open-ended. And that was the reason why he hung and he suspended and he wrote this question between the lines. What is the story with Mishobid? Because he was looking for an answer for both. Says the Gemara, so that was Rebbe's response. Rebbe responded that in both scenarios, bein Machroi, bein Mishkanai, whether the brother sold or gave it as a mashkin, you collect for the nedunya, for the dowry, and not for the mezainis. Comments the Gemara of Rabbi Yochanan Amar and says Rabbi Yochanan echazeh v'chazeh ein moitziin. Rabbi said you both are yes moitziin leparnasa, not mezainis. Rabbi Yochanan disagrees that whether it's for parnasa, whether it's for the nedunya, you do not collect both from machroi and from mishkanai. So Ibayilu asks the Gemara. Li Rabbi Yochanan. We're about 15 lines down. Samach Tes Samach Aleph. The first one in the line is the Rabbi Yochanan. According to Rabbi Yochanan, Loi Shemiya Leha de Rabbi. Did he not hear that which Rabbi said? V'shmiya le'avi mekabele. And if he would have heard that which Rabbi said, he would have been mekabel it. The reason being that Rabbi, who was a Tana, or maybe he heard that which Rabbi said, but he wasn't mekabel. He didn't accept this is indeed the opinion, and he argued. So Tashamas, let's try to prove. Again, we're trying to prove the fact that Rabbi Yochanan said, Ein moitziin. The fact that Rabbi Yochanan said you do not collect from both properties which were mishkanai or machroi, whether this is because he disagrees blatantly with Rabbi, or he did not know that which Rabbi said. So Tashema explains the Gemara, the Itmar. Someone who dies and leaves over 2 daughters, Uben and 1 son. And the first daughter, she goes and she gets married. And when she gets married, as we've learned, she takes Isur Nechasim, she takes 1/10 of the estate as her nedunya, as her dowry. And the second sister, the second daughter, did not have the ability to collect Ad Shemeisa Ben. So again, there's a father that dies, leaves over 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. The boy being the obvious inheritor. 1 girl goes and she gets married, so she takes 1/10 of the estate. The second girl didn't have a chance to get married until the son died. So what happens when the son dies? Now the entire estate falls to whom? Falls to these 2 girls. One of them already took 1/10, and the other one took nothing. So in this scenario, Amarad Yochanan Shniya Vitra. The second daughter loses her right to collect the dowry, and the second daughter gets equally with the first daughter. We do not say that the second daughter first takes an Isur Nechasim, takes 1/10. Rather, the first daughter already got her 1/10, and we leave it at that. And the second daughter, what does she do? She's equal with the first daughter, and they split up the estate 50-50. So, we said even more than this. We said that Yisayim was able to collect the dowry in an even more extreme case. You're saying in this case, the girl does not get the dowry. I'll tell you even a greater case where the girl does yes get the dowry. Moitziin leparnasa. What do we learn, says Rav Chanina, that if the estate was as a mashkin or sold to someone else, the daughter is able to collect it for her dowry. And in this case, the estate is here. And you're saying the second daughter doesn't get? I don't understand. If a girl is even able to get her nedunya from a property that was mashkanai or machrai, certainly she should be able to get it from this case in which the dowry, the estate is right in front of us. So now from here we can prove the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Vim Isa. Now if Rabbi Yochanan did not hear what Rabbi had said, Neima le man amra. To this question, Rabbi Yochanan said, Shniya Vitra. They asked Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan could have responded, Me'echatesi, who says that this is a true ruling of Rabbi? So seemingly Rabbi Yochanan heard it, and he argues. Says Gemara, really? Maybe he didn't hear it. And now the first time he heard it, then he's accepting it. But for shiny awesome, that case is different. You can't bring a proof from this case. This case where one girl took the dowry and the second one did not. Because since in this case the estate is obviously big enough to support both of them, maybe that's the reason why Rabbi Yochanan held that she doesn't take 1/10, and rather they split it equally. So Amar Lei Rav Yimah Rav Ashi in the first white line. What are you talking about? Are you going to tell me that if the Yisayma of this girl goes and finds cash, and now she has a lot of money, because she has money, she doesn't take an Easter Nechasim? The halacha that she gets a tenth is halacha, is an obligation. That the state pays her a tenth. Why does it have anything to do with whether there is wealth, or there is that which comes from the estate or not? So Amar Le, I know Rav Chbeisa mehani nechasim kamin. I didn't mean Rav Chbeisa she stam has money. I meant that this estate is that which is providing her. That's the reason why she doesn't first get a tenth and then split it, but rather she splits it. Continues the Gemara, Amar HaMeimer on the third wide line. Let's understand this halacha that a daughter, that a girl gets an Easter nechasim, gets a tenth of her father's estate. Bas Yereshes Havoy. Says HaMeimer, a daughter is considered a Yereshes, as she's considered one who is Yeresh that inherits the estate and a tenth of the estate. Now, what does it mean that she's a Yereshes? The Gemara is going to explain. Amar le Rav Ashi HaMeimer ilu ba'il saluki b'zuzi achanami domatz saluki. You know what it asks Rav Ashi to HaMeimer? Are you telling me that she's a Yereshes, that if the brothers wanted to give her cash and say, go fly a kite, they're not able to? Amar le'in. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. That the brothers can't just say, you're deserving of X amount of money and that's what I'm going to give you. Rather, the brothers have to give her a tenth of the actual estate. Ask Rav Ashi further, what if they wanted to give her one piece of land? You're going to tell me that she's a proper Yeresh, a proper inheritor in the entire estate? Amar le in. Yes, indeed, they cannot even make her get one piece of land, because she's a regular Yereshes, a regular inheritor that gets a tenth of the entire estate. Whereas Rav Ashi Amar, that was the opinion of HaMeimer, that a daughter, when she gets the land from her father for the Nedunya, she gets it like a regular Yereshes. Rav Ashi comes along and disagrees and says, Bas balas choiv havoy. She does not get a tenth as a Yereshes, she gets a tenth like one who is owed money, which obviously would be the previous implications that the brothers could just give her cash or just give her one piece of land. And the Gemara comments, even HaMeimer was chayzer, you retracted, Amar Rav Yumi braid from the Chumi, I was by HaMeimer, Vasi Hitza, the woman came to Kamei, Dav Gavah Yisur Chasim, and she wanted a tenth of the land, the Chazita L'daite, and I saw that what did HaMeimer hold? The Ibai L'sluki B'zuzi have Misalik Lei, that if they wanted the other brothers to give her cash, they could have. Tishami, how do I know that's what HaMeimer held? Tishami me'achi davika amri lux. I saw and I heard that one of the brothers was saying to her, Ilu avilan zuzi, salik nabit zuzi. The brother was saying, if I had cash, I would give you cash. Happens to be we don't have cash. But the brother was saying, we would have given it to you. Veshtik v'lamar luvlai midi. And HaMeimer was quiet. And for the fact that HaMeimer was quiet, clearly he was chayzer. We see from here a very important rule that any time a judge, a baldin, sees in front of him someone saying something, even if it's not relevant to the din Torah, that's the chiddush over here, because the brothers didn't even have the cash. But since they stayed quiet, that shows the implicit agreement of the judge. Continues the Gemara, so of both HaMeimer and Rav Ashi are both holding that when one is Yeresh, a tenth of the land, she does it like a balas chayiv, she does it like a creditor. Who is she considered a creditor of? The father or the brothers? Says the Gemara, who cares? To whom can she collect? Either Beinis without a Shvua or to Ziburis with a Shvua. What is the halacha? She considered like for the brothers of the father. So says the Gemara, 15 lines in the bottom. The first one line is Bishvua Mai Tashema. The Ravina Agbi Lebrati the Rav Ashi. The Ravina collected the Nedunya for Rav Ashi's daughter. Mi married Braid Rav Ashi. From Mar Braid Rav Ashi, which is her brother. Bebein is L'shloi Bishvua. Married Rav Sam Braid Rav Ashi. Ziburius Bishvua. So what do we see? We see she considered a Baal Schlev of the brothers. And that's why when she takes Beinah, she does not have to swear. When she takes Ziburi, it's the lowest quality land. She has to swear. And Shalach Leir Nachami Rav Yesi the Rabbi Ravuna Zutam in Hardai. Ki Asi Ha'itza, when this woman comes like Kamech Agbi Yitzin Chasma Filu Mitzvah Rubla. She could get a tenth even from the base of the mill. Even if such an item is considered a karka, because it is attached to the ground. And Amar Rav Ashi, Kavina Bei Rav Kahana V'Magbina Filu, May Amala Debeisi, I would collect even from a rent payable for the houses, because that is the din of karka as well. Another story, Shalei Rabbanan Ravuna Una Chavron, Huna, my friend Shlom, Shalei Malecha, peace to you, Ki Asoya Itza. When a woman comes in front of you, we eat lunch at the bottom, the first line is Itza. When a woman comes in front of you to collect a tenth of her estate, Have Yosef, Rav Shishish Kamei. Rav Shishish was sitting for Rav Huna when this message came. Amar Lei, so Rav Huna said to Rav Shishish, Zil Emalei, go and tell Rav Hanan the following message. Ubishamta, Yehei man d'loi Amar Lei. And it should be in Chayrim one that does not give over the message. And what's the message? Anananan, mimikarkoi umimitaltaloi. Should you get from karka or from a taltlin? Uman Yosef Bei Marzicha Bereisha. And who is the one that sits of the house of Marzicha? Interesting message he sends. So also Rav Shishish, the Kamei Rav Hanan, Rav Shishish does his shlichus. Amar le Mar Rabbo v'Ravuna Breit Rabbo v'Shamuti Shamis. And he said to him, Mar Rabbo, Mar, Rav Hanan, you're the master. Ravuna Rabbi the Rabbo, and Ravuna is the master's master. V'Shamutei Shamis man lo yomer lei. And Ravuna said he's going to put into Chayrim one who does not give Rav Hanan this message. V'Ilav the Shamis lo v'Kaminon. And if not for the fact that he would have said that he's going to put me in Chayrim, I would never have listened. But since he said if I don't give the message over exactly, he's going to put it in the Chayrim, he says to Rav Hanan, I'll tell you the message, even though it might sound a bit chutzpahdik. Does she get from karka or metaltlin? And what was part 2 of the message? Man Yosef Bei Marzicha, who sits at the end of the base Marzicha Bereisha first. So also Rav Hanan went to Mar Ukva. So Rav Hanan went to Mar Ukva. Amar le Chazi Marichi Shalach li Rav Huna. See how Rav Huna sent a message to me. He sent number 1, Anananan, Voi. Marzecha de Shalach li. What was the question that he sent? Who sits at the head of the Marzecha? Lo Yodanam I don't understand what he's asking. So Amar le Marukva explains, Eimali easy. Tell me as we turn over to Samach Tasem Beis Kufa Jovda. Tell me exactly what was the story. Hechayavi, what happened? So Amar le Rav Hanan responds, this was the story. So Amar le Marukva says, Gavra de Yoda my niu Marzecha. A man who does not know what Marzecha is, Shalach le Rav Huna Chavrin my Marzecha. Send a message to Rav Huna and say, Huna my friend, what's a Marzecha? Says the Gemara, Shalach le Huna Chavrin, send him a message, Huna my friend. So my Marzecha, so comments the Gemara, Avel d'chsev koim Hashem kel tavai beis mar zeach. And that is the end of the story over here, this interesting exchange between both Rav Hanan and Rav Huna. And the second question is who sits at the head of the mourner, at the head of the table, says the Gemara, Amar Rav Havua, Menayim la'avel shemeisa b'roish. This halacha that you asked, who sits at the head of the Marzecha, which we now know is referring to the Avel. So how do we know that the Avel sits at the head of the table? Shenamar, Evchar darkam ishe b'roish, says in the Pasuk, I'll choose their way, I'll sit at the head, ve'eshkin kemelech, Bagdur kasher avelim yinachem. I'm going to rest like a king amongst the troops as you console the mourners. Says the Gemara, yinachem acherim mashma. The word yinachem means you're consoling someone else. But it's not the actual one sitting Shiva himself sitting at the head of the table, but rather it sounds like the one that's coming to console him sits at the head. So Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, yinachem ksev, change it to yinucham, which means the one that will be consoled, meaning the one that's sitting Shiva. Mar Zucha Amar, Me'acha, a different source, V'sar Mizrach Seruchim, a lot of mourning will come close, which teaches us, Mar V'zach, Nase Sar Lisruchim. One who is Mar, bitter, and Zach detached, he becomes the Sar, the Prince of the Exalted Ones, meaning he sits at the head of the table. And Amar Rava, we conclude the first part of today's shir. We continue with the Mishnah of Samach Tasem and Beis, and the Mishnah begins a new topic. If someone gives money for his daughter with a shlish, with a third party, and the third party is given the money to buy a field that she's going to get, and then the father is nifter, and now we have this shlish who has the money and is supposed to buy the field for the daughter. And the daughter says, Naman bali alai, I trust my husband, give my husband the cash, and he'll purchase the land. Says the Mishnah, Meir says, nope, the shlish has to do as he was instructed by the father. He's not allowed to listen to this girl and give the money to her husband. Rav Yosi Amer, says, I don't understand. If he goes and buys a field and gives it to this girl, she is able to sell it. So what's the point of going and doing something? She's able to sell it. So what's the point of doing something against her will? It concludes the Mishnah b'Meir the Amurim b'Gedayla. This halach is only by Gedayla, but not by a Ketana. So Tana Rabbana, let's understand what's going on in the Mishnah. Someone gives money to a shlish, to a trustee, to benefit his son-in-law. That what? This son-in-law is supposed to buy a field for the daughter, and then he, being the son-in-law, will benefit from the field. And the daughter says, give it to my husband. Don't let this shlish, let this third party take care of the cash. Give it straight to my husband. Let my husband take care of the purchase. Explains the Gemara, if they already had nisuin, then we listen to him. So Rameir here in the Gemara is slightly different from the Mishnah. Rameir is differentiating between nisuin and erisin. When it's a gedolah, whether erisin and nisuin we listen, or shus biyada, ketana ben nisuin ben erisin yazda shus mashlosh biyada. So Rav Yosi differentiates between gedolah and ketana. Rameir seemingly differentiates between erisin and nisuin. So ask the Gemara, what exactly is this machlekes Rameir and Rav Yosi? Because we have two different details. We have ketana and gedolah, and we have nisuin and erisin. So the Gemara is trying to figure out which is the detail that Rameir and Rav Yosi disagree upon. If you're going to tell me they argue about a ketana from nisuin, he can be nayo. Rameir savar should be yada, that since she did nisuin, we listen to her and we give it to her husband. And on that, the detail also Rav Yosi and on that, Rav Yosi says no, because since she's a ketana, I don't care that she did nisuin. We don't listen to her. But can't be, because they must say for the end of the Mishnah say will be ketana, must ketana klum. The Mishnah said clearly that ein ma'isa ketana klum. So Haman ketana lo. Who is going to be the man the Amar stating this last part of the Mishnah? Haman ketana lo on the fourth wide line. Ilema Rav Yosi Hamaresha shmasmina. Can't be that's Rav Yosi saying that the actions of a ketana are nothing, because we already know that from the Reisha. Like Rav Yosi taught us that if she would sell the field right now, it would work. So why are we selling it against her will? So says the Gemara, you're right. So you know what the case must be that they are arguing about. Kedayla debas zvini in ketana debas zvini he loy. Excuse me, this is all part of the kasha. Says the Gemara that the case Kedayla. One more time. B'medvar murim gedayla dvazvini in. So says the Gemara, this seemingly implies that only gedayla who can sell a field and true, but k'tan las b'zvini lie. So what do we see? That the end of the Mishnah seemingly would be saying the same thing twice according to Rav Yosi. So Ella Rameiri. So who is the one that said this last line of the Mishnah? That said the line that says in ma'aseh ketana klum. It must be Rameira. We have to add some words into the Mishnah. Yes, when is that mineirusin? She has the power. And furthermore, it's only Gedolah, not a Ketana. But says the Gemara, so then that means that both Rav Yosi and Rameir are in agreement that a Ketana we never listen to, even after Erisin. So you can't tell me again. The Gemara started off and said, "My beinayu." On the first wide line, we asked, "What's the difference between Rameir and Rav Yosi?" And we suggested that maybe the difference is ketana min nisuin, but the Gemara just proved that they both agree. A ketana, even from nisuin, has no power. So hella gedoyla min ha'erisin ikabeinayu. Rather, the difference must be a gedoyla that only did erisin. And it concludes the Gemara that that is going to be the case that both Rav Yossi and Rav Meir are disagreeing in a scenario that we have a gedoyla, but they only did erisin. In this case, Rav Meir is going to be the one that says we do not listen because they only did erisin. And therefore, that's what the Mishnah means when it says that if the daughter says to listen, they give it to her husband after erisin, we do not listen to her. And that's specifically where Rabbi Yossi says, no, since she's a gedoyla, even though they only did erisin, we're going to listen to her. That will be the case of Machlek Shamin and Rabbi Yossi. And the Gemara concluding that Yudim Rishmol says Pasuk Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Renach says Pasuk Rabbi Meir. We'll pick it up from the story of Ilfa in the next year.